In the heat of the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union found themselves locked in a fierce battle not only for geopolitical supremacy but for dominance in space. This battle, known as the space race, was fueled by technological prowess, national pride, and the unyielding human spirit to venture beyond the confines of Earth. The race officially kicked off on October 4, 1957, when the Soviets launched Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite. The satellite, a small beeping orb, sent shockwaves through the American public, leaving the U.S. scrambling to catch up in this new frontier. In response, the U.S. initiated Project Mercury in 19... Under President Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Mercury 7 astronauts became America's first space pioneers. Simultaneously, NASA was established, further solidifying the US's commitment to reaching the stars. The Soviets had an ace up their sleeve, Yuri Gagarin. On April 12, 1961, Gagarin orbited the Earth in Vostok 1, earning him the title of the first human in space, a significant blow to American morale. To counter the Soviet achievement, President John F. Kennedy made a bold statement on May 25, 1961. He declared, "I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth." With that declaration, the Apollo program was born. But as the U.S. gained momentum, the Soviets under Sergei Korolev made significant strides of their own. Although Korolev's untimely death in 1966 significantly impacted Soviet lunar efforts, leaving the U.S. in a favorable position, the Apollo program wasn't without setbacks. The Apollo 1 fire in 1967 claimed the lives of 3 astronauts during a ground test, serving as a grim reminder of the risks involved. Yet, despite the setbacks, both superpowers persevered, with each failure and triumph fueling their respective drives to achieve their lunar goals. By 1969, after a decade of anticipation, the world's eyes were focused on Apollo 11. As Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin made history by walking on the moon, the U.S. emerged victorious in the space race. Though the rivalry between the two powers continued, no monumental endeavor is ever the result of just a few people, and Apollo 11 was no exception. Behind the mission was a coalition of scientists, engineers, and politicians who made this remarkable achievement possible. John F. Kennedy's vision in 1961 set the wheels in motion, inspiring a nation to reach for the stars. But the true soul of the mission lay not in the White House but in the research facilities of NASA. One pivotal figure was Wernher von Braun, the German-American engineer and mastermind behind the Saturn V rocket, the towering giant that took Apollo 11 to the moon. Von Braun's vision of space exploration, built upon his work during World War II with the V-2 rocket, made the colossal Saturn V a reality. This rocket, the most powerful single-chamber liquid-fueled rocket engine ever made, stood 363 feet tall and could produce a staggering 7.5 million pounds of thrust. However, Apollo 11's success was not solely attributed to von Braun. Among the unsung heroes was Katherine Johnson, an African-American mathematician whose work ensured the spacecraft's safe trajectory. Her calculations were crucial to the mission's success, proving that the power of intellect can transcend societal barriers. Also integral to the Apollo 11 mission was Margaret Hamilton, the lead software engineer whose team developed the onboard flight software. Her programming efforts were vital during the mission, especially when a potential command error threatened to jeopardize the lunar landing. Thanks to Hamilton's quick-thinking code, Apollo 11 was saved at the critical moment. While the astronauts, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins, were the faces of the mission, the unsung heroes at NASA, their engineers, technicians, and administrative staff played an equally crucial role. Their collective efforts ensured the safe passage of the spacecraft to the moon and back, marking Apollo 11 not only as a triumph of political will and scientific ingenuity, but also as the victory of the untold heroes behind the scenes. Preparing Apollo 11 for launch was no small feat. Every element of the mission, from astronaut training to rocket assembly, was an intricate and painstaking process that involved countless individuals working around the clock. The astronauts, selected in January 1969, underwent rigorous training that included simulators, weightlessness experiments, and even landing simulations. Neil Armstrong, as mission commander, was tasked with managing the delicate lunar descent, while Buzz Aldrin focused on orbital mechanics in the lunar module. Michael Collins, orbiting the moon in the command module Columbia, had the responsibility of ensuring the safe return of the crew. But it wasn't just about the astronauts. The Saturn V rocket, standing at 363 feet and weighing 6.2 million pounds, was the most powerful machine ever built. It was the brainchild of Wernher von Braun and his team, and its construction involved a monumental effort, with parts of the rocket being built across various locations in the U.S. and assembled at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Once assembled, it was so massive that the rocket couldn't be transported by rocket, to be carried on a barge across the Panama Canal to reach its final destination. Equally crucial to the mission was the construction of the lunar module, affectionately named Eagle. This was a delicate two-stage vehicle designed to land on the moon, Its construction posed numerous challenges, as it needed to be light enough to lift off from the lunar surface but sturdy enough to withstand the harsh lunar environment. The engineers at Grumman Aircraft Engineering Corporation, led by Tom Kelly, rose to the challenge, ensuring that the module was ready for the historic landing. The Saturn V rocket stands as an enduring monument to human ambition and ingenuity, towering 363 feet into the colossal symbol of mankind's technological prowess. To understand the enormity of this engineering marvel, one must grasp its sheer size and power. Weighing 6.2 million pounds and capable of generating 7.5 million pounds of thrust, the Saturn V rocket was built to carry the Apollo 11 spacecraft, including astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins, 238,000 miles from Earth to the Moon. At the core of the Saturn V rocket's design was Wernher von Braun, a gifted German-American engineer who had previously worked on the V-2 rocket program. During World War II, von Braun's vision and expertise in rocket propulsion systems were crucial in developing the Saturn V's engines. The rocket's F1 engines on the first stage were the most powerful single-chamber liquid-fueled rocket engines ever built. These engines, when ignited, created a violent thrust that could lift the massive rocket off Earth and send it into space. The launch of Saturn V was nothing short of spectacular, and for miles around, windows rattled and the ground shook as it ascended toward the heavens. The Saturn V rocket was a three-stage vehicle, each stage performing a crucial function. The first stage, powered by the 5 F1 engines, was responsible for lifting the rocket off the ground and pushing it about 42 miles upward into the sky. As soon as the first stage had expended its fuel, it detached, and the second stage took over. The second stage, powered by 5 J2 engines, pushed the spacecraft even further into space, achieving a speed of over 16,000 miles per hour. After the second stage completed its task, the third stage ignited, placing the spacecraft into Earth's orbit, and then sending it on a trajectory toward the Moon. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Saturn V rocket's design was its precision. Each stage of the rocket had to function perfectly to ensure that the Apollo spacecraft would be on the correct path to the Moon. The manufacturing process itself was a logistical marvel, involving various locations across the U.S. The rocket's parts were built in facilities spanning from California to Louisiana and were finally assembled at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Due to its sheer size, the rocket had to be transported by special barge through the Panama Canal to reach its final assembly point. The Saturn V was an engineering feat that represented the pinnacle of human achievement in rocket technology. It was designed to perform one of the most difficult tasks ever attempted, to launch humanity into space and land a man on the Moon. Without the Saturn V rocket, the Apollo 11 mission would not have been possible, and the world would not have witnessed that historic moment, July 20th, 1969. This rocket did not just symbolize a national achievement, it embodied humanity's unyielding quest to reach beyond the stars. As the colossal Saturn V rocket roared to life and lifted off from Kennedy Space Center on July 16, 1969, the world watched in awe as Apollo 11 began its historic journey to the Moon. The astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins had been preparing for this moment for years, and now they were about to embark on a journey that would make history. The countdown had begun, and the mission, representing the culmination of a decade's worth of scientific innovation, political will, and human determination, was finally underway. The journey through space was an extraordinary cosmic ballet, one that required careful choreography, precision, and impeccable timing. The spacecraft traveled at a staggering speed of 25,000 miles per hour, hurtling through the vast emptiness of space toward the Moon. But within the confines of the spacecraft, the astronauts experienced a calm that contrasted sharply with the intensity of the mission. The constant hum of the spacecraft's systems and the periodic communication with mission control were the only sounds that filled the cabin, as the astronauts carried out routine checks and monitored the spacecraft's systems. In space, where gravity no longer had its hold on them, the astronauts were forced to adapt to the weightless environment. Even simple tasks, like eating, sleeping, and moving around, became challenging. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin spent their days conducting experiments and preparing for the upcoming lunar descent, while Michael Collins, piloting the command module Columbia, remained in orbit around the Moon. Awaiting their return, Collins had the responsibility of ensuring the crew's safe return to Earth, while Armstrong and Aldrin would land on the Moon, collect samples, and conduct their groundbreaking scientific experiments. One of the most significant moments of the journey came with the translunar injection maneuver that set Apollo 11 on its path to the Moon. The engines of the command and service module fired for approximately 6 minutes, propelling the spacecraft out of Earth's orbit and setting a course for the Moon. This was a crucial step in the mission, and it marked the first significant break from Earth's gravity, pushing the spacecraft into the vastness of space. The entire crew, led by Armstrong, watched as their spacecraft drifted toward the Moon, the uncharted world that would soon become the focus of humanity's attention. As Apollo 11 entered lunar orbit on July 19, 1969, the astronauts had their first close-up view of the moon's surface. The landscape was bleak and barren, a vast, lonely, forbidding expanse of nothing, as Michael Collins described it. From his vantage point in the command module, Collins marveled at the lunar surface, while Armstrong and Aldrin began preparing for their descent. They studied the moon's surface, identifying key landmarks and analyzing the terrain that would soon be the site of mankind's first steps on another world. The journey was not without its challenges, as Armstrong and Aldrin encountered difficulties during the lunar descent. One of the biggest obstacles was a series of computer alarms that indicated the lunar module's onboard computer was overloaded with tasks. It was a tense moment, and a failure to address the issue could have meant disaster. However, thanks to the quick thinking of Jack Garman, a young computer engineer at Mission Control, the astronauts were reassured, and the mission continued. As the Eagle descended toward the lunar surface, Armstrong noticed that their intended landing site was filled with large boulders, a potential hazard that could jeopardize their landing. Demonstrating exceptional skill and composure under pressure, Armstrong took manual control of the lunar module, guiding it to a safer location. With less than 30 seconds of fuel remaining, the tension on Earth and in the spacecraft was palpable. But then came the words that marked the culmination of their historic journey. "Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed." These words were broadcast around the world, signaling the safe landing of Apollo 11 on the moon, a moment that would forever be etched into human history. The successful landing of the Eagle marked the first time in history that humans had landed on another world. As the lunar module settled onto the moon's surface, Armstrong and Aldrin prepared to step out and make history. The world's eyes were focused on the moon as Armstrong made his famous first step, followed by Aldrin. Armstrong's words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," echoed across the globe, marking a moment of triumph for all of humanity. For 2.5 hours, Armstrong and Aldrin conducted experiments, collected samples, and explored the moon's surface. They deployed the passive seismic experiment to measure moonquakes and set up a laser-ranging retroreflector, which is still used today to measure the distance between the Earth and the moon. They also collected 47.5 pounds of lunar samples, including the famous Genesis rock, a piece of the moon's primordial crust. These samples, later analyzed back on Earth, provided groundbreaking insights into the moon's geologic history and the origins of our solar system. Their moonwalk was not only a symbolic gesture, but a monumental scientific endeavor that would alter humanity's understanding of our lunar neighbor forever. On July 20th, 1969, the world held its breath as Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin made their descent to the lunar surface aboard the Eagle. The powered descent initiation was a critical moment in the mission, and the tension was palpable. As the lunar module descended, the crew encountered unexpected obstacles, including computer alarms and an overly bumpy landing site filled with boulders. Armstrong, demonstrating exceptional skill, took manual control, guiding the Eagle to a safe landing. The famous words Armstrong uttered, "Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed," were broadcast around the world, marking the completion of an extraordinary journey. Armstrong and Aldrin spent a mere 2.5 hours on the moon, conducting experiments, collecting samples, and planting the American flag. Their lunar excursion was not just symbolic but scientific. They deployed instruments like the passive seismic experiment to measure moonquakes and the laser-ranging retroreflector for precise distance measurements between Earth and the moon. Their collection of lunar material, including the famous Genesis rock, provided unprecedented insights into the moon's ancient history. After completing their mission on the moon, Armstrong and Aldrin left the Eagle behind and reunited with Michael Collins in the command module Columbia. Their journey back to Earth was filled with anticipation, and on July 24, 1969, Apollo 11 splashed down in the Pacific Ocean, where they were immediately recovered by the USS Hornet. The astronauts were quarantined as a precaution, but their return was met with jubilation. They were welcomed by President Richard Nixon and millions of adoring fans, and their 45-day goodwill tour saw them travel to 25 countries, symbolizing the unity of mankind. As Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins toured the world, their achievement became a symbol of what humanity could achieve when we dared to dream beyond the confines of Earth. Their names would forever be intertwined with the moon, and their legacy would continue to inspire generations to reach for the stars. The lunar samples returned by Apollo 11 have sparked a wealth of scientific discovery, revealing more about the moon's past and the history of our solar system. These samples have helped scientists understand the moon's geologic history, its connection to Earth, and the conditions in the early solar system. The lunar rocks collected continue to provide valuable insights, and the Apollo Next Generation Sample Analysis Program aims to study these samples using the most advanced technology available. The moon's silent witness, now immortalized in these samples, tells a story of planetary formation, meteoric impacts, and the early development of our celestial neighbor. The moon, once a distant object of fascination, now serves as a testament to the determination and ingenuity of humankind, forever marked by the footsteps of those who dared to explore beyond the stars.